Guzzlers. I'm on beer. I'm on lager, although I could be on Guinness. Because it fits with what we're having tonight to eat. That was my first gobful, and I'm already slowing with it. Because we're going Nigerian. And apparently, beer is the third most popular drink in Nigeria. Number 1, water. Number 2, tea. It's the most popular drink, alcoholic one, beer. So, that's why I'm on the beer. But we're going to make a nice spicy smoked meat skewer called Suya, sometimes called Suya. Not to be confused with soya, that's non-meat. This is soya or Suya from Nigeria. Dates around about the 1850s when it first started coming out. And we're using beef, but you can use meat, you can use chicken, you can use shrimp. And in fact, sometimes when they use the meat, they use some of the offal. But we're not, we're just going to use beef. So, Nigerian Suya. So before we can actually make our meat skewers, we've got to make the Suya spice, or sometimes known as Suya pepper. And then we're going to marinate our meat in that for at least an hour. So we'll be having a little break. Might not break from the beer, but we'll be having a little break from the cooking. So in my mortar and pestle, I'm going to start by putting in, well, basically we want about 3 tablespoons of cayenne pepper flakes. So I've got my Kashmiri chilies in there. I've just noticed I de-seeded them, and there's some seeds still in there. Never mind. And I'm just going to sort of lightly crush them up, and into that as well. They're being a bit temperamental and don't want it to crush up. Now it is meant to be spicy and it is meant to be hot, but you might not want to go overboard. On the chilli, because one of the main ingredients is crushed Kuli-Kuli. Kuli-Kuli are a peanut treat, so this is actually a bit like a satay chicken. It's a peanutty based marinade, although it's a dry marinade. Okay, and what I've got in here are some broken up Kuli-Kuli. You'll have to check a different recipe out for how to make Kuli-Kuli. Okay, and I've got here about 190 grams. The other main ingredient is ground ginger. And it's important that you have the same measure of Kuli-Kuli and ground ginger, but not by weight. So if you were going to do it in tablespoons, say you had 5 tablespoons of that, you'd have 5 tablespoons of ginger. So it sort of, if you want to weigh it out, it's a ratio of 110 grams of Kuli-Kuli, 75 grams of ground ginger. So I've got about 190, getting on 200 grams. I'm going to put that in there. Okay, see, like, I'm extravagant. I've created extra washing up. I could have put it straight in there to start with. No, let's put it in a bowl and then put it in there. So that's my Kuli-Kuli. And then here, I've got my ground ginger. A fucking lot of ground ginger. And that's going in there. Okay. Now, I'm going to be adding these crushed chili flakes when they stop flying everywhere. Now, my next ingredient I'm having to like substitute. Traditionally, you would have something known as Uda, or it's otherwise known as African Negro pepper. Okay, I haven't got any. I've no idea where you get some from. So I've got some long pepper, and I've got about 8 long peppers. I've taken the stalks off, and I'm going to put them in there, and we're just going to crush them up as well. Now I suppose you could substitute black pepper, ordinary, you know, pepper corns, but I thought, sod it, well, I'm going to use my long pepper, which would be in a bastard to break up. Now, the only other thing that's going to go into that spice mix is actually optional. Well, actually, there's 2 optionals. You can put some salt into it. I'm not going to bother, because what I am going to put into it is a stock cube. Get rid of them. And I'm going to rely on the fact, even though these are actually low salt buns, that there is salt obviously in there. And being healthy, even though that's full of peanuts. All right, elf on the fallen off shelf. Cutting back on salt. Well, I have done for a long time, but there you go. So I'm going to get all this ground up, mixed together. The long pepper taking a bit of effort, and then we'll mix that all together. Chucked all that in there, and all I'm going to do, I'll put a glove on, mainly because them chili peppers will probably get all over my hands anyway. And what we're just going to do is rub this all together to make sure it's all nicely combined together. So I'll tell you about this suya. To be honest, the spices I've put in here, it's all very fluid. It all depends on where this is made. Different places have their own version of what they want to put in it. It's just one of them things that, you know, depending. But it is a peanut-y, made from Kuli-Kuli. So this Kuli-Kuli is a peanut, essentially peanut with peanut, and peanut. Excuse me. Just getting over a second bout of COVID. So I've still got a little bit of a chesty cough, as it were. No, it's Nigerian, not Russian. Chesty cough. So, like I say, it does tend to vary a bit, but it has this peanutty spice, if you like, in it, with a lot of ground ginger, like we've put in here. But then the other things can vary a little bit. Now, unlike Kuli-Kuli manufacture, which is done by women, Suya is men's work. And May Nama is the term used for the people who make that, which is basically not women. So although women took charge of making the Kuli-Kuli, women apparently didn't do anything with this stuff. So it's more like a rub, really, I suppose. So that's our spice mix ready, our Suya spice. I mentioned about the African Negro pepper. Apparently, it's quite important. Quite important pepper, quite important spice in Nigeria. It is essentially one of the main ingredients of Suya spice, so this isn't truly Suya spice. But apparently they make it into a tea, which they often give to new mums, because apparently it helps contract and cleanse the uterus after birth, childbirth. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But anyway, I'm just going to get rid of my cloth, and we're going to start cutting up our meat. I said we're using beef, okay, and we ended up having, well, the wife went shopping again. I said to her, get some nice sort of chunks of steak or something like that, because we've got to cut thin slices. So she thought she'd been helpful and buying thin cut steak or whatever it is. But what I want to do is I want to slice this thinly. Now, some people advocate that you could freeze this for about an hour beforehand. So there you go, I've cut sort of like a thin sliver off. I'm just going to chuck it all in there for a minute. That if you freeze it beforehand, it obviously makes it easier to cut your thin strips. However, your traditional housemen who are involved with the traditional making of suya will say, no thank you, this meat should not be frozen. Sorry. Actually, part of it, I think, is the cough is essentially when I was grinding that chilli, I did notice as that was getting finer, I was starting to almost like feel the burning going on. Get rid of that crappy bit. And I think that's actually not actually helping my throat at the moment. So they say no, you should not freeze it. And essentially, when we've rubbed this all over it, we're going to let this marinate for at least an hour. Sometimes they might argue that could be overnight, doesn't really matter, but we ain't got that amount of time, so we're doing it for about an hour. You will see recipes for this where they say, you know, cover it with cling film, which is what we're going to do, and then marinate it in the refrigerator. Again, that's a bit of a no-no. You don't put it in the fridge. So, I'm just going to get my meat sliced, as he actually said to the bishop. Get myself another beer, because I've almost got that one. And then we'll get on with the marinading or whatever. What I'm now going to do is I'm now just going to make sure I chuck spice everywhere. I forgot to get my beer, didn't I? I mix this beef through into all this spice. Now, I've chucked all that spice in there. You know, there's obviously more than I need. If you make up this spice, you can bag it up and freeze it, and it can last for years apparently, but we probably won't bother. So just coat your meat as it were, and then we're going to lay it on this tray, and then I'm going to cover it over, and we're just going to leave it for the best part of an hour. Essentially, we then sort of grill it, if you like. It don't take long, and we will serve it with some basic sort of salady type ingredients. But these apparently go bad for these skewers and meat. What can I say? So, like I say, I'm just going to carry on making sure every bit of meat is covered, and then we're just going to marinate it. I need a marinade inside. Oh, keep meaning to say, earlier today I got my wooden skewers, which these are going on, because remember this is this is meat skewers. They're soaking, because obviously when we put them on or under the grill, they're going to burn, or could do. So you do need to make sure your skewers are soaked, and then a bit nearer the time we will be putting the oven on or the grill on, but at the moment it's all just about doing the marinade. We can sprinkle some of this on, and in fact we will do at the end, but there you go. That's it for the moment. Make sure your meat's all thoroughly covered. I'm liking that line. And also I need to go and check on how England are doing, because it's the start of the Six Nations, and England are playing Scotland. And at half time, I think England was 2-2 down. I can't remember. But it's a good game so far. See, I'm giving that up for this for you. So there you go. There, it's all done. So I'm just going to leave that there. We're going to have a little break while I go and drink some beer. And what we're going to be, once we cook this, we're going to accompany this with what is traditionally chunks of onion, lettuce, some cucumber, and tomatoes. The wife quite likes cherry tomato. Well, I say quite like, she likes cherry tomatoes, sort of. Neither of us like tomatoes, but she's got herself some cherry tomatoes to go with it. And that's essentially it. My skewers are soaking. When we're almost ready to start cooking it, I should come and put the grill on, and we'll be whacking the grill on at about, well, maximum basically, and then we'll be grilling them under the grill. What I'm going to do while waiting on the grill, I'm going to start just preparing our accompaniments. Now, traditionally, Suya, I think I might have said, would be served with sliced onions, or onions, but it is sometimes used or served with, like we are, well, we're not, cabbage, we're using lettuce, I'm not having cabbage, raw cabbage in. Tomatoes and cucumber. So I'm just going to prepare that. They're still sitting there nicely marinating, and we're on to another meal. When I said right at the beginning about I could be on lager or Guinness, because they're very big on Guinness in Nigeria. So, don't you dare fall over. Apparently alcoholism is a big problem in Nigeria. They're a little bit naughty, or they were. Apparently the alcohol companies realised they had like a huge potential market, and in the past actually set out promoting their alcoholic drinks to young people, encouraging them to get out there and get drinking, which of course they did, and as a result it caused a lot of alcohol related problems. Actually, I think I might have to get another lettuce here. So I'm just going to chop these up, divide them up. I think the yeast is fine, yeast is limited, it's going to drop back. And then once I've got me salad stuff, if you like, plated up, we'll start skewering. So it's that time. We're going to start skewering our meat. So, like I say, I've soaked the skewers so that when they go under the grill, they're not going to burn. Okay, and I want to try and get my meat, as it were, sort of fairly sort of flat, so that when we lay it under the grill, obviously it's going to get a chance to cook evenly. I've got some spare spice if I need, like for instance, there we've got a little bit of a patch, so I'm just going to do that. Now, some people, you know, sometimes they will actually sprinkle some of that spice, that Suya spice, over the meat after it's been grilled. That's entirely up to you. So, just going to get this threading. Like I say, the grill's on maximum. Actually, oh, well, there's a big patch there. I didn't get covered. So, essential, we've got some spice there. Now, you might not want to keep this spice. Like I said, you can keep it in the fridge, but given that we've had the raw meat in there, you might decide you don't fancy keeping it, but that's up to you. But I'm now just going to get my skewers done. So here we go, 10 skewers. Now I've sprinkled a little bit of extra spice on top. They're now going to go in there, and we're going to give them about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'm going to turn them. But before I do, I might give them another little sprinkle. There's something, even though I've soaked these sticks for about 5 hours, they've got a bit brittle. reminds me a little bit of chili, of jerky, because it's quite dry. Although you get the peanut, it's not quite the same as the satay. There's a lot of heat in it. That's the ginger, and definitely ginger coming in, and the chilli. I think it's just the difference being because of how thin the meat is, and the fact how dry the rub, if you like, is. It's not very moist, but then not everybody likes moist, do they? But definitely spicy. So there you go. Your Nigerian Suya.